Welcome back. This is Tom Moran with the All Hazards Consortium. And on behalf of the Fleet Response Working Group, this is part of our webinar series to educate people on the UAV and drone topic. With us today is Kevin Gambold, CEO of Unmanned Experts. And today we're going to talk about threats and use cases we covered earlier. Now we're going to look at threats. So Kevin, let me invite you to kind of jump into our slides today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom, and great to be back. So now we're going away from the positive, warm and fuzzy use of the drones, which we like to big up, and we're drifting into the two other areas that, unfortunately, I have to say, most of you are probably more familiar with. The first one, we've done the good, is going to be the bad, and this is, we're going to look at the things that capture the headlines because people are being dumb or even dumber. And then we'll drift into the positively ugly, which is when people are using them for nefarious purposes. So let's look at the bad. The menace in the sky, as you can see from here. Okay, so I've taken a bit of liberty and I've divided these into the three I's as I see them. The first one in the I crowd is the ill-informed. These are people that get one of these off the shelf of Walmart and off they go, or they get gifted at Christmas or the birthday. And they fly them because they don't know that there are airspace regulations and there are other aircraft. I had one guy tell me once, yeah, I didn't realize till I even picked up a chart, an aviation chart, which I told him about in one of our training classes, that I was in Class D airspace on the approach to our local airport. I'd seen a lot of aircraft, I just didn't think about it. So these informed then, they are hobbyists. They are individuals that just want to get these things airborne and fly them, lots of them kids. The issue is, of course, that they are a safety concern. As you can see top right, of course, they were interrupting firefighting operations in California, and there was tremendous hoopla about finding these, grounding the fleet, and with a lot of cars were burnt out because of the fleet was grounded. Of course, there is a problem because these are effectively hobbyist flyers. They're not flying commercially. And for a very long time, the hobbyist community group called the Academy of Model Aeronautics, or AMA, which predates the Federal Aviation Administration, by the way, for about 40 years, they have used a community-based guidance. They have used their own internal regulations, which again, guidance but not rules, and they've been very safe, and they've had a long history of very safe flight operations, very responsible operations. The FAA has been, until recently, banned from regulating them, and now they're finding some legal loopholes to get some rules and get their hooks into the models. But the issue is, that line, are regulating against stupidity. You can only write so many rules before somebody will do something absolutely ridiculous. I mean, simply, why would you say that? So, ill-informed, that's the first set of I's. Second group, the immoral. So there are some rather dodgy-looking characters. Their eyes are a little bit close together, they walk funny, and there's almost a deliberate misuse of you. It's not illegal, maybe a little unethical, and this is one example where they're spying on sunbathing women on roofs. Actually turned out to be an off-duty police officer when it happened, and she knocked the drone out of the sky using what was to be like a closed tank. And then this very interesting happened. Spygate, which was another New England Patriots scandal back in '07, they were apparently filming one of the NFL training. Nothing was ever proven, I think. However, if we go to the next one, the FIFA during the 2015 World Cup in Brazil, the French team made a legitimate claim saying that there was a drone spying on their training. And it goes beyond just sports training. It's actual industrial espionage. The super secret Apple headquarters that everyone's trying to keep under wraps has been leaked online by various drone overflights about 6 times in the last year. So the concept of espionage, industrial espionage, or misuse, immoral use of these very much entered into the bad realm of drones. Next slide. across the border. I want to really think of a better way. There is no registration on these aircraft. They can often be sent autonomously, and you can send anything over the border as long as they can be retrieved and people can be there and gone in no time, and there's no evidence. Unfortunately, the first time it ever happened, in January 15th, the first time it was ever caught, actually, 7 pounds of methamphetamine coming over the Tijuana border. And the drone crashed because actually, if they'd done a training course, they'd realized it was horribly overweight. It would never have made it. But you can only imagine the number of drones that have been crossing any of our borders, or from one locale to another, smuggling contraband of some description. Next. This is what's capturing a lot of imagination. In fact, the Bureau of Prisons has actually put out a request for information to try and hold this, and it's been happening a lot on both sides of the Atlantic. So Quebec, Georgia, Maryland, they keep finding drones crashed in the prison yard. But there was a very telling quote from a Manchester prison in the UK not a month ago, November 2015, where one of the inmates said, yeah, they did catch one, but what they're not seeing is it's happening every day. That these drones are flying up to the windows of prisoners. The prisoners are opening the windows, pulling whatever the payload is, be it tobacco, be it money, be it credit cards, be it even weapons, and then flying away. And nobody is seeing these things. If you think about the capability of the drone to be able to fly very precisely to a small area, you see this would be a considerable concern, brand new tech, and that's definitely in the illegal crowd. Next slide. Of course, it could go beyond that to hostage notes, anything where you could be leaving something behind, or at least communicating with the police, and they have no way of getting to you. Dropping a hostage note or dropping some sort of information about with the police can often get you caught. Well, this might be a way to avoid that, the illegal crowd. Moving on. Next one. Okay, so that's the good and the bad. The ugly. So this is when it is a legitimate threat. This is when the federal, state, and local judiciary and police start sitting up and breaking their ears back. Here, Islamic State threat. This is obviously the current enemy of choice. Threat to bomb crowds at major British events. Well, just imagine any event, or just the threat of these showing up. It gets everybody somewhat concerned. There's always a bad juju about seeing drones. You don't know what their intentions are. But if you now know that there might be a legitimate threat to these things being armed with a grenade or with a weapon or some type, then certainly your hackles will be up. So let's have a look at this, the ugly side, in a bit more detail. The history goes back a little bit. If we look top left, there's an RC aircraft. In 2011, the FBI ran a sting operation, and they caught this guy. He had a number of these aircraft, and he was buying explosives from fake explosives from the FBI to fit them into his aircraft and fly them into Congress. So this thing's been running for 5 years now, at the very least, and the tech has only gone up. If you look top right, then, and this is just a hobbyist piece, is where they strapped a whole load of firecrackers to a drone, and they were initially shooting it at each other's drone, and then started shooting at each other. You can see some Paul stabbed in the frame there. Very amusing video. I suggest you YouTube it, but terrifying consequences. And that came to reality in these bottom two, and this happened in 2014 and 2015. Is video released online showing an armed. Both of these have handguns. Both of them are operational. Both of them firing rounds. You can see the bottom left actually at the shot, and supposedly very accurate. You can imagine that the capabilities of these things to effectively be used in some form of shooting or assassination, where there is nobody to catch, there's nobody to actually pin the blame on, is quite terrifying. Let's move on. Of course, those are the guys that would really want to keep their hands out. they have, for all intents and purposes, a significant number of these commercial off-the-shelf drones. They have been using them in surveillance during their normal operations, but for them to use them in the civil terrorist format is not a stretch of the imagination. They've already threatened. Moving on. Okay, so you have to see it to believe it, but in April of this year, there was this drone that sat on the roof of what's known as the Blue House, which is basically the White House in Japan, for they suspect about a week, and it was a stunt, in fact, but it was a bottle of cesium-laced sand that was highly radioactive in theory, but actually just quite a low level for when they found it. But a tremendous amount of interest and fear generated by this, that a radioactive drone could deposit something in supposedly one of the most secure locations in Japan. And of course, Japan is hosting Group 7 and the Olympics, and so they have a tremendous amount to lose if they can't secure the airspace from this sort of threat. Okay. If you wanted to how little poison would be required, how little radiation, then the polonium-210 assassination of he was an ex-FSB agent from Russia living in London and poisoned and assassinated by them dropping polonium-210 into his tea. 50 nanograms, so I mean you can't even spoon that little out of the bowl. So it's extremely poisonous stuff, and delivered, scattered using one of these is a terrifying concept. Moving on. So what would the targets be for somebody? And I'm trying to give them ideas. I'm taking these ideas from the web. Well, the first one is these are very efficient surveillance and planning assets. They've been used in conflict zones in the Middle East, and there's no reason why they wouldn't be used elsewhere, maybe in Europe and North America. So surveillance and planning, you could get a very good picture of the surroundings, of any weaknesses in the fences, any encroaching areas around fence lines, any potentially, you could watch guards and routines and see what they can and cannot see, where the lights are. So there's a tremendous amount of information you can from a stealthy airborne surveillance platform before you were trying to do an attack. We've talked about smuggling. Well, of course, you can regulate drugs, weapons, and explosives, but only in your own country, and if they're being smuggled in over the border, then this problem becomes unregulated, and it becomes an issue. Or the next piece, which is direct assassination, just out of interest. So if you can just see in this center picture there, that's Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. She's staring at a little drone. It's from a Parrot drone family, very widely used. And she was at an open-air town hall meeting in Dresden in 2013, and this thing landed in front of them. And of course, back in 2013, they were a novelty, and you can see the bemused expressions on everybody's face there. But had that been carrying, even a quarter of a pound of explosives, or even one of those weapons, then you're looking at a terrifying assassination scenario, which had all the Secret Service agents running around with their hair on fire. And this is where the counter-UAV piece really started. And then, of course, there's direct action. Assassinations is one, critical infrastructure threats, dropping into power lines, at power stations, into nuclear facilities. All of these are at risk. But there's one other piece which we have to talk about, and I laugh only because of how somewhat unusual this came around. So, as you can see on the bottom photograph, there's a small drone carrying what appears to be a flag, and it is. It's a very controversial flag. I think it's called Transnistria, for an area between Serbia and Albania. And this is a Serbian-Albanian soccer match in October 2014. So this flag was flown over down the middle of the pitch in the middle of the game, and it caused such a furore both on the players and in the stands that there was a riot. And let's go one slide forward. And you'll see this is what actually actually happened, and they had to abandon the match. They didn't stop it, they had to eventually abandon it because of the chaos it caused. So that was a flag in a somewhat ethnically charged area. Imagine if that had been carrying maybe explosives, maybe there's a swarm of these, maybe it came by with a dropping white powder, and nobody would know that that wasn't some form of biological chemical threat. And so you've got 80,000 people in the stadium. You could only imagine the potential uproar. So we've all decided now that these are a threat, and everybody is scrambling, literally scrambling to find a solution. And that comes in the form of Counter-UAS, or whack a drone. And it is a very nascent area. This is where technology is literally at the cutting edge. And it's a fascinating area to get involved with, and we've been very lucky to be a part of that tsunami of tech as it occurs. So let's have a look at some of the examples that have come to fore in the last couple of years. So the military obviously have been concerned about these drones for a little while. They've had them, and now the bad guys are getting them. So they've been using, if we look top left, lasers from surface warships, and now there are a number of laser systems based. If we look at the bottom center, that's called the AUDS system. It's a ground-based laser designed to shoot down small UAVs and missiles and bombs. The second one on the top is a photo frame from the Israeli Air Force shooting down a Hezbollah drone that had been overflying one of their nuclear facilities. Next to that then is again an Israeli system called the Iron Dome that is used to shoot down unguided rockets as well as UAVs. So small guided missiles, either air-launched or ground-launched, are potential uses. You can jam these things out of the sky, and the next one on the top right is a Russian jamming system that supposedly was involved with the Iranian capture of the American surveillance spy drone, the RQ-170. There is even more, a couple of what were initially considered to be almost joke videos came out of this one on the center left for the Malu, which is a nest system that is designed to capture the small UAVs using a big one. Actually, this has been fielded lately in Japan. So some of the videos, which we may show later, I'll try and put a link over to you, Tom, are fascinating, and they do seem reasonably effective, which means it's not too maneuverable. You've heard a lot, if you look in the center here, about shooting drones down, and there's a number of ongoing court cases. There was even, you could get Deer Trail in Colorado, I believe, was issuing people with licenses if they wanted to shoot them down. So, and Remington, etc., has got some spoof loads out there for their shotguns. But there's a number of people being shot down, and the owners have taken the individuals to court. So, well, let's press on with this then. This is the video of the Malu system, which is French-based, and you have to put up the language, I'm afraid, and the rather terrible music. But I'll make sure that Tom has that link and show you capturing and basically taking out of commission a threat small drone. Alright, let's keep moving. Okay, so as I said, we've been very lucky to be involved with this. There are a number of systems that are currently being fielded. The most mature of them is actually the Anti-UAV defense system, or that term is being used almost as a generic term, more like a Hoover. But in essence, it is a standalone system. It has a number of very high-tech, lighter phased array radars, which are almost world-beating in their ability to detect these very low, slow signature aircraft, which are a specific threat. So the radars can pick them out for about 8 kilometers or so, and then the system has both an electro-optical, a day TV, and an infrared, very high definition set of sensors, which are cued onto whatever they think is a threat. You know, the algorithms can filter out any birds and any other confusions, and then it can track that system. And finally, in its full-up capability, the AUDS system has 3, maybe even 4, out to 5 different jamming type is all fairly secret, so we won't go into it, but it has some very clever ways in which to disrupt the flight, and it will either crash it, return it to home, or in some instances, they're looking at versions that can maybe even take control. But the idea is you detect the threat, you track it, you make sure that it is a real problem, and then you knock it out of the sky. AUDS, we've got a video coming up. So Tom will ensure that you've got the link to this video, but it's actually a live flying scenario of the whole thing in action, and it's definitely worthwhile. And as I said, the AUDS system is currently pretty much the soup to nuts version. It's one that's built as a TRL of 9, if you understand that, which means it's been operating effectively in the field. So it's the go-to system to beat at the moment. Next, it's interesting because the military have been dealing with the idea of bad guys flying aircraft at us for many, many years. We have a number of ways of using that. One of them is called an integrated air defense system. It involves C3I command control and communications, and we have this interactive area. We have airspace, we have missile systems and fighters, and everybody knows where everybody is, and the systems communicate to them. Well, and the intelligence piece is that they build this recognized air picture. Everybody knows where everyone else is, and they hand over and they say, you shoot that one down, that one's a goodie, etc. Well, we need to now start thinking about an integrated air defense system, a recognized air picture for the civil environment, because these are aircraft that may be threats or may not, and need to be identified, detected, identified, tracked, and then potentially disrupted or destroyed. So it's a new way of thinking for the civil community, and it's something that we have a lot of experience in, and I think we can mirror that across from our experience, because it is a problem. All right, so our bottom line, and as I said, good, bad, and ugly when it comes to drones, but the key to comedy is that it is a tool. This is how we have been describing this. We want individuals in bucket trucks to have these, and they use them like they use a wrench. And so, like anything, in this case, we're going to talk about using a chainsaw. Like any tool, drones can be used for lies.
Yes.
Yep, we're just going to explain. Okay, they can be misused. They can cause all sorts of damage if they haven't been used correctly. Or, and if you're squeamish, look away, abused. They can be used in the most horrific ways. So, it's a tool, and don't look at the last two. Think about how it can be used for the first one, and then we have ways to mitigate misuse and abuse of it using our counter